Good afternoon again, everyone. My name is Chuck Vincent, and I'm a business development rep on Tech Data's IoT team. And I'd like to welcome you all to another installment in our Smart IoT Partner Series. Today, we're going to be focused on transportation and logistics. Now, some of you may be pretty well versed on Tech Data, but for others, this may be the first time you've connected with us. So I wanted to highlight just a few things that we're pretty proud of as a company. We started just over 40 years ago, and we got our start selling printing supplies, and we now offer everything from the data center to the living room. Last year, we were ranked number 107 on the Fortune 500 list with $26.2 billion in sales. That averages out to be about $100 million per day. But with our recent acquisition of Avnet's TS division, we're expected to have approximately $36 billion in pro forma sales next year, which is going to place us somewhere right in the 80s on the Fortune 100 list. Now, Fortune magazine was kind enough to also name us one of the world's most admired companies, and that's something we're pretty proud of. We're truly a global company here at Tech Data with over 14,000 employees worldwide. We have 8 logistics centers across the United States, helping us to deliver over 150,000 different products on our line card to over 100 countries. And absolutely none of what I just said has any meaning or would be possible without all of you, the resellers. And we're proud to have a reseller network of over 115,000 here at Tech Data. Now, no presentation would be complete without a big money slide. So I apologize for putting this in, but seriously, I didn't really have a choice. Now, all joking aside, this slide is extremely important because it does a great job of capturing the enormous amount of money that's available to us in the world of IoT. We're seeing growth in transactions happening in every vertical you see here, and it's in response to that projected revenue that Tech Data created its IoT team just about a year and a half ago to help you, the reseller community, capture as much of that revenue as you can. So our IoT team is unique in that we're a vendor-agnostic team that's working primarily as a solutions aggregator. Now, what does all that mean to you? It means that we recognize that most IoT solutions are complex, and we know that bringing together things like sensors, hardware, visualization, and connectivity can be time-consuming and overwhelming, and we're here to take as much of that off of your plate as we can. We're a single source for end-to-end IoT solutions and components. We've brought together a vast network of vendors to help fill those roles so that you, our reseller community, can focus on bringing solutions to market. We encourage you to have conversations with your end users to discover their pain points and frustrations, and then reach out to us, the IoT team, and let us come together and solve those problems. On the IoT team, we start with the business outcome. What are we solving for? Is it reducing costs? Is it promoting efficiency? Is it maintenance that we're trying to tackle? So let's start with the business outcome, come to the team, and then we're going to solve those problems together. Now, while we do operate across a variety of verticals, we're focused in 4 primary areas where we've seen the most growth. Those are smart manufacturing, smart retail, smart spaces, and my personal favorite, smart transportation and logistics. Do you remember that big money slide from earlier? There's a lot of money showing on here, but where do you start? That's a question I get constantly as a business development rep on this team. I talk daily to resellers that are excited about IoT and looking for a way to break in and capture some of this revenue, but quite frankly, they just don't know where to start. Not every reseller has end users in manufacturing, retail, healthcare, or utilities, but I'd be willing to bet that every one of you has an opportunity in transportation. And hopefully, that's why you're here. It's because of the growth in transportation that we're excited to have partnered with Propel GPS and have invited them back for a second time to share their solution with us. It's worth noting, I think, that they are the first people that we've had back 2 times. So they did such a great job the first time, we're coming back for a second. So if you're a reseller that's wanting to break into IoT, this is a great opportunity for you. Propel GPS has got great solutions, easy to bring to market, great margins, and honestly, a solution that's just perfect for any reseller that's trying to launch into the world of IoT. So today, I'm happy to be joined by Rick Bertner, who's the president and CEO of Propel, Wes Jones, the vice president of sales for commercial fleets, and Stephen Reed, vice president of the partner sales organization. So Rick, I know you're online. Would you like to jump on and say a couple words to get us started?
Certainly, Chuck. Thank you so much for the intro. and we're excited. Welcome, everyone. The team and our partner team, we're going to take you through a journey, how to make IoT real world, make the savings applicable to your business, your customer business, and along the way make it easy. So we're not a 40-year company, we're a 5-year company. We're very pleased to be partnered with Tech Data. The fact that we're a 5-year company makes us born in the cloud, makes us cloud-enabled, and an agile, nimble company. We built our business organically. We haven't gone out and tried to buy companies through acquisition and then have to worry about patching legacy server farms to the cloud and how to use a lot of baler twine and duct tape to hold it all together. We're quite simply latest technology, and for that, it makes us nimble, agile, and we can actually do a lot of things to suit hand-in-glove fit your business and your customer business. We liken ourselves to Southwest Airlines, and you might think, what the heck does Southwest Airlines have to do with a transportation IoT company? Herb Kelleher, for those of you that remember 41 years ago, came on the scene and in a bold move said, I'm going to positively disrupt the airline status quo. And by that, he sought to put a number of people to work competing with the legacy mindset, saying, we're going to give you reliable on-time departure, arrival. We're going to make the journey fun and customer-focused, and we're not going to charge you for aspects of the journey. We're going to have a very attractive price, and we're not going to charge you for overhead that you don't need or want. In other words, in that analogy, they didn't offer first class, and you didn't have to absorb the cost of first class if you weren't flying first class. And so they also set out to fly 737s to know their product cold. Their pilots, their mechanics knew exactly what they were working with, how to troubleshoot, and the bigger airlines that scoffed at them at the time, Braniff, Pan Am, Eastern, even ones that are still here today, those others are gone, like United, have gone bankrupt so many times, and Southwest endures. And along the way, that standardized model has morphed into doing things like reservation early, business class, where the customers ask them to go into certain other add-ons to their core offering and platform. That's the way we see our business. We, analogous to them, we want you to know that you're important to us as a customer. We listen to you. We make updates as part of our standard offering. We have a total package that makes it easy, and the prices are very competitive. I'm going to hand it over to Stephen Reed, our Vice President of Partner Sales. We've made the commitment to have a gentleman like Stephen that's our point person dedicated to making this easy, help you close business, and we want you to know we're focused on your customer and you as a customer so you'll enjoy the ride. Enjoy the journey with us.
Thank you so much, Rick. I appreciate that. Let's start diving into the presentation a little bit, and while you're taking a look at this first slide, I'll just take a moment to introduce myself. So I'm actually a relatively new employee to Propel GPS. I started at the end of July with them. Prior to that, I was with this networking company called Cisco Systems. I was at Cisco for a little bit over 12 years. And in my last 2 years at Cisco, I got to know Rick and Propel GPS as Cisco was ramping up its own IoT strategy. And I think one of the things that I've heard, not only then when I was working at Cisco, but now as Propel GPS, is customers love IoT, and I think they hate it all in the same breath, because IoT allows you to put an IP address on anything, but do you really want to put an IP address on anything? Really the answer and the question that you need to ask your customers is, what are they willing to spend money on? Where are their pain points? And these markets and verticals and use cases that you see on the right-hand side are all areas that customers are spending money on IoT right now. And that's why we focus on them, and that's why we wanted to have this presentation and talk to you today about how you can get part of the pie of this great growing IoT area. So I'm going to talk a little bit about those various verticals as we go through our use cases and our solutions. But typically how we talk to a customer and start the conversation is we ask them 3 questions about their business. We ask them, are you concerned about asset security, driver safety, and or fleet efficiency? And sometimes you may actually find the answer to that question is very surprising. You might think everybody's concerned about asset security, but you'll find a lot of times they're not. What they may be concerned about is one of their employees driving down the road at 85 miles per hour in a 35 mile per hour zone with their company logo slapped on the side of the truck. That is something that they do not want to have happen. It is very damning to their brand and something they're trying to avoid as a customer. The interesting thing, or the great thing about our solutions, is no matter where the customer's pain point is, with a proper solution from Propel GPS, we can help them in all 3 of these areas: asset security, driver safety, and fleet efficiency. We just always like to ask a customer, where's their top pain point, where are they really focused on, because that helps us guide the conversation about how to build the best solution for them. Our 3 core offerings are listed here on this tab, and I realize there's a little bit on here, but there's 2 major points I wanted to bring up on this slide specifically. Number one size doesn't fit all, and some of our competitors try to force customers into one size fitting all, meaning that they're only going to sell one type of solution for their entire fleet or asset needs. We don't take that approach. We look at the different strata or different asset classes that a customer might have, and we line up the best solution that meets those needs. So again, it's kind of that Southwest model. We're not going to make customers pay for features and functions they don't need. And we're happy to support customers in 1, 2, or all 3 of these various use cases. The other thing that I like to point out on this slide as well, too, is as you kind of move from left to right, you get all the features and functions of the lower classes. So a customer can start out in basic, they can move up to mid-range, and then they can move up to advanced, and they keep all the features and functionalities from the first one up to the second and up to the third solution. So to drive a little bit more into each of our core solutions that we have, our basic asset tracking is typically for customers who don't have anything in place right now or feel like they're getting overcharged for things they have or are being overcharged for things they have right now. And some of the main pain points they'll have is they just don't know where things are. And I have a great example because it's very relevant. They're building a school right next to where I live in Northern Virginia. And there's been a backhoe sitting on the construction site for not less than 3 weeks. And I drive by it every morning, and I look at that backhoe that hasn't moved, and I'm wondering to myself, does the construction company even know where this thing is and if it's being used at all? You will be amazed what lack of information customers have about where their key assets are and how they're being variously used. Another example that I'd like to give about this is how some of our customers are creatively using our technology. One of the key features of our basic system is this geofencing capability, where we can outline either a customer location, a depot yard, maybe a schoolyard, or things like that, where assets are coming and going. And we had a customer who said, I'm not really concerned about where my vehicles are on my property. I'm concerned about where they're not. Specifically, I don't want them parking my truck outside of the local bars. So he actually set up geofences around the local bars so that he would get an alert anytime one of his vehicles went to one of the local watering holes, and he would get a notification, and he could call that employee and say, hey, not something I want you to be doing with my logo strapped on the side of the truck. Our mid-range solution, again, has all the same features that you would see in our basic, but with one additional component, or potentially multiple, depending on the customer's use cases. We would add one or more monitors to the device and solution. The typical things that customers are most interested in monitor is either temperature or a door opening sensor. We've also seen some scenarios where customers are concerned about specific things being used, and I'll give you a couple of different examples of each one of those. Temperature, if you think of anything in the food supply chain, if any of your customers are hauling meats, produce, vegetables, anything like that, they're going to be very concerned about that temperature of that cargo when it's in shipment. So we have in our mid-range solution the ability not only to track that asset, but to show the customer in real time what that temperature of that cargo shipment is. and to potentially generate alerts if it falls below certain thresholds. So in pharma, most pharma has to be kept under room temperature or 7 degrees. So we'll generate an alarm maybe when the cargo reaches 60 before there's a critical event. And then the dispatcher or the cargo company can take action to make sure that that load isn't spoiled in shipment. Another example I like to give on is off-hours usage of equipment. A great example of that is with tow truck companies. So tow truck companies a lot of times have the policy where they say, hey, listen, we don't mind if you drive one of our tow trucks to and from your home residence, but we don't want you to take jobs off your work hours. So if your work hours are from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., you can drive your truck around outside of those hours for personal use, but don't take side jobs. Well, how can you actually verify that's going on? Well, with this solution, we can actually monitor whether various components of an asset is being used. So in the tow truck example, we can actually monitor if the boom is being used on the tow truck. And if the boom is being used off hours, we can generate an alert, send it to the manager or dispatcher, and they can be notified that a tow truck is potentially being used off hours against company policy. One of the other solutions that we saw for in this space as well is when customers can't tie a driver or an operator to a specific asset that's being used. So we have a driver ID technology that looks like a standard type of key fob, where when an operator steps into the cab of a vehicle or another type of powered asset, it registers that driver with a unique identifier. So we can actually say Rick Bertner was on this construction site between these hours using this piece of equipment. As you know, as simple as a thing that might sound, a lot of customers have a difficulty verifying the hours worked, and they want to make sure, especially for part-time employees, that they don't exceed a certain number of hours worked each week.
School bus systems are a great example.
Exactly. School bus systems are a great example of that. Our higher-end solution, our advanced solution, is around the ELD mandate. For those who are not familiar with that, the U.S. Department of Transportation is issuing an order, has issued an order that effective December 14th of this year, if you do any type of interstate trucking and you go over 100 miles in a day, you can no longer use paper logs to record your hours worked. The premise behind all of this was to make sure truck drivers were not driving too many hours a day and thankfully falling asleep or otherwise being tired on the road. So we all know that paper logs can be fudged a little bit too easy, so the U.S. government said, can't do that anymore. We have to move to an electronic-based system. And that's what you can show the screenshot right here. This is our ELD solution. It runs a specific application called the Hours of Service application. It's actually built on a very open platform, and this is something that makes us a little bit different from the competitors in that space. It is an Android tablet, so all the things that you can think about an Android tablet is applicable in our solution as well. So if there are other applications a company wants to run, fleet management, inventory, dispatch management, they can run those applications on this tablet as well, but we have the security software to prevent them from watching YouTube while they're trucking down the road at 65 miles per hour, which is obviously something you wouldn't want them to do. The other nice thing about our solution as well, it is all-inclusive. All the cables, all the mounts, all the various components are included in our solutions. There's no hidden costs. It's a really slick, turnkey, high-quality solution that uses the latest 3G and Bluetooth technology, so that also provides a level of investment protection. Because typically customers will leave these devices in place for years to come, and they want to have some knowledge that the stuff that I buy today will have some legs to it as they move down the road, and their requirements may change over time. When we talk about the architecture of our overall solution, we use the acronym DNA, Device, Network, and Application. So for whatever solution that we're proposing for a customer or working with you guys on, is there will have some type of physical hardware device that will be assigned to that asset and physically attached to that asset. It might be powered, it might be unpowered, but it's going to minimally do two things for us. It's going to have a GPS receiver on it, and some type of some type of cellular connectivity so that we can receive data off of that. So we'll add that device to a customer asset. It may have various probes on it for temperature or door opening or other types of things that the customer wants to monitor. We will leverage the cellular network for network connectivity. And finally, that will feed up into our application and platform backend, which is presently hosted on AWS. We are kind of cloud agnostic. We're not dependent upon AWS. We just know that AWS is the gold standard for cloud applications, and our application is there. One of the things that we get asked a lot, specifically with customers that have lots of assets and maybe multiple divisions, is do you support role-based access control? And the answer to that question is yes. So if a customer has different divisions and different heads of those divisions, then you can actually separate and logically assign those individuals to only see the assets or vehicles that they're responsible for monitoring, whereas the overall director of operations or the vice president of logistics, they might be able to see every asset. You can segment those roles out to individual managers. The other question that we get asked a lot about our web platform is there a license fee per user? And the answer there is no. We don't really believe in that. You can have as many users as you want to our platform, so that whoever needs to get access to the data can get to it, and we don't have a specific license fee that is associated with just the web platform. I'm not going to go through all of our market differentiators on here. I'll just call out a few that I think are the most important to us. Specifically, the one that I always like to start with when I first started working with Rick and Propel GPS before coming on as a full-time employee, was Rick would always make the point to me that our software and our software development is 100% owned by Propel. And I said, okay, that's nice, but I didn't really get it. And then when I started going on to a couple customer calls with him, and the customer said, hey, I really like your application, but could you move this column over there, or could you change the color of that icon from red to blue? He's like, sure, no problem. And the customer's like, and how much is that going to cost? Well, nothing, because that's just what we do. If a customer wants basic customization or they have a specific layout of their dashboard that they want to see, we're not going to charge them for that change at all. And I'm constantly surprised by how much customers really resonate with that, and they like the fact that we have that ability to kind of give them the view of the data that makes the most sense to them, so they can make the best and most timely business decisions and save them the most amount of money and be the most efficient with their fleet. The other thing that I like to point out on this slide, too, is kind of the premise behind our land and expand philosophy. If you're familiar with that business term, that's all about making your business sticky, not selling something and walking away, but selling something and staying with your customer for a long time. And one of the ways that we do that is by offering unlimited customer training. We have found that no matter how many times a customer comes back to us, we can help them out, and a lot of times they'll say, hey, you're currently doing this for us, but we have this other business problem over here. Hey, no problem, let's talk about that and how we can potentially address those business needs. So not only does unlimited customer training try to provide a value to the end customer because they feel like they always have a touch point back into our company, but frankly, it always gives us an upsell capability when they come and have their various requirements, have new requirements for us and want to talk to us about what have changes in their business. And finally, because it is our own, our own development staff, we have very, very fast deployment times. Again, this is something that typically just blows customers away. We tell customers, give us all the data you have about your environment, just Excel spreadsheets, flat files, we don't care what you have. And we'll take all that and we'll pre-populate as much of the database as you can so you get value out of the application from day 1.5, right? Literally as soon as you turn it on, things will be pre-populated for you. That is typically a huge value proposition for customers, specifically for those that have large fleets, that have a lot of locations. It basically takes a lot of the manual data entry away from them, and they don't have to worry about it at all. So what are you actually reselling as part of our solution? So we try to make it unbelievably simple to resell our products. So there's really only 2 SKUs, or most of our solutions will literally only be 2 SKU solutions. One, there'll be some type of hardware/activation SKU, again, that device part of the DNA. And then SKU number 2 is the N plus the A, the network plus the application, as well as the 24/7, 365 support. So when we talk to a customer, we'll say, all right, what are you trying to do? And based on the things that they're trying to monitor and the various requirements they have for either temperature or door opening or various probes, we'll spec the correct hardware solution. And then the second question we'll ask them is like, okay, well, what is the level of service that you need for doing this? And then we will provide the relative level of service. And there's only a couple of options. You can talk to the Tech Data team. It's not a very long line card that we have with Tech Data because we're able to wrap a lot of things together and make it a very easy thing for customers to do.
And just a quick point on the right side, we have access to all 4 major carrier coverage. And in our standard coverage, our SIMs will allow you to go from Canada to the U.S. to Mexico. So they're North American in their footprint generally. So as the international aspect of Tech Data starts shining through, you don't have to stop and call up, do a different plan. You can traverse between the North Americas seamlessly, which is quite nice. We're also direct with Sprint and have a pretty good reach.
So here are just 2 sample transactions that we would actually quote to an end user, just to give you a flavor of the balance between the hardware and the software and the kind of the dollar size of these opportunities. So both are 125 device examples. The left-hand example is our basic solution, and the right-hand example is our mid-range with a sensor attached to it. So you can kind of see the various numbers here. The total on the 125 is about 114,000. The mid-range solution is about 133, and again, the equivalent 36-month lease rate would be $29.95 and $34.95 a month for our customers. So one of the things that I learned through my kind of journey through learning more about Propel GPS is those various assets that are driving down the roads. So those refrigerated cargo vans, the trucks, the tractor trailers that you see attached to a larger tractor, they might be upwards of $80,000 each, and that's just one of them. So when you think about the price of that asset and what it would potentially cost a customer to lose not only the physical trailer, but the load that's inside of it, and you look at these prices, the ROI is very, very simple for customers to make. And that's one of the reasons why at the beginning of the presentation I mentioned these are the industries and the markets that customers are spending money in IoT, because the ROI is very simple for them to make.
That's a big point. Cigarettes are over $1 million. Blue jeans, over $1 million. Pharma, over $1 million, and many food loads are upwards to $500,000. It doesn't take very long to bear out an ROI with those kinds of costs at risk.
Exactly. So what does a typical sales motion look like? Like any sale, you're typically looking for an executive sponsor in that account. CTO, CO, CFO are probably all familiar to you, and it would make really quick sense. But one that I specifically wanted to call out was the Chief Marketing Officer. The application there, or the concern there for the marketing officers, is brand awareness. And what they'd be concerned about, again, is that example I provided you before. What if one of my drivers is going down the road at 85 miles per hour in a 35 mile per hour zone? They might be very interested in knowing that, and they're very concerned about their brand, and they do not want that to happen. And then, of course, you probably want to look at the other person you probably want to think about as a title to target is either a head of transportation, logistics, fleet management, or potentially even supply chain. We have a lot of sales collateral that we can provide to you, but we typically recommend starting with just a 2-page overview of the company and a link to our sales video. So we have a demo of our platform online. It's a little YouTube video that people can take a little look at just to kind of whet their appetite. And then from there, just schedule a joint sales call with either a Tech Data IoT or one of the representatives from Propel, and we'll actually help you close that deal. One of the things that we do like to do with all our customers is to position pilots with them. And pilots can range in various sizes. We typically recommend a couple devices of each type of vehicle or asset. So if the customer has a need for both our basic, our mid, and our advanced, then we would recommend maybe 2 or 3, maybe 4 each in each of those. So maybe that pilot might be 15 units total, depending on what they're trying to do. But what we do caution against is just having them pilot one type of our solutions when there is maybe multiple different types of use cases, because I think that's really shines to one of our strengths, that we can handle all those different use cases and provide a custom solution for the customer based on their specific requirements of what they're trying to do. So I'm going to take a little break from talking and pass things over to Wes Jones, who's going to go through a little demo of our platform, just to give you a little taste of what it looks like, and then he'll pass the ball back to me, and we'll finish up with a few more slides and maybe a couple minutes for questions and answers.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Wes Jones. I'm the Vice President of Sales for Propel for the commercial fleet side. I do want to give you the 30,000 overfoot view of the application. Typically, when the application opens up, we directly go to our dashboard. This is the 5-minute manager, if you will. You'll be able to see real-time events and information going on today and for the past 7 days. You'll notice 6 widgets here. The top 3 are going to be information about what's going on today. You can see the idle time, and this is based on a variety of different vehicles in a demonstration account. We've got over 15 hours of idle time. The next widget is vehicles in use. Vehicles in use to us is meaning engine turned on or engine off. This is especially prevalent to busing situations where the dispatcher needs to know that all buses have taken off from the schoolyard, or any type of transportation company this would be applicable to, even service-based companies. If all techs are supposed to be deployed by 8 a.m., they can go in and simply look and see who's out there moving towards their destinations. We then have our exceeding speed limit summary today, and we've got 3 criteria. We've got 15 miles an hour over, 10 miles an hour over, and 5 miles an hour. We had 22 5-mile-an-hour events, and then 4 10-mile-per-hour over posted speed limit events. Everything is interactive on these widgets, so I can just click on it quickly to see the vehicle name, the speed that they were going, the posted speed limit, which we have 99% of all highways, roads, freeways, interstates throughout the United States. We have the posted speed limits, the excess speed, the time, the date stamp, and the location that it happened. So all of that is directly at their fingertips to access whenever they need to. The bottom 3 widgets are historical data, so we can see the mileage for the last 7 days of the fleet, the idle hours for the last 7 days, and again, exceeding speed limit incidents over the last 7 days, and the color graphs are right there. Driver safety is one of the biggest things that we get asked about now from companies in all different verticals, so it's important for them to know who's out there driving safely, and this will give them the information to determine who is a safe driver and who might need to be spoken to from a disciplinary standpoint. I'm going to take you to the map now. The map is going to look very similar to other mapping programs you may have played with. Again, this is a variety of different vehicles we've got here, different sizes, shapes. You hold your left mouse button down, and that'll move the map up and down, left and right. You can use your mouse wheel to focus and get about a mile above a certain area where a vehicle might be located at. From an information standpoint on these vehicles, you can put your cursor over a specific vehicle, and we can see the vehicle name, if they're moving, the last update time, temperature. If there's a temperature sensor, as Stephen mentioned, we will have the actual temperature of that trailer, the VIN number of the vehicle, the speed they're traveling right now. This is a real-time system. And then 2 links here. View tracking details is going to give you every update that we have sent out throughout the day. Our typical default is 5 minutes, but we can lower that to 2 minutes based on the customer's preference. And then the second link is a street view. Very handy from a dispatching standpoint to see exactly where these vehicles are in real time. If I click on street view, it'll open up our partners at Google Maps, and we can see that this guy's on the interstate, it looks like. So if I pull this, you may have noticed everything that highlighted in blue there is where Google's taken a picture. So if I put this on the area closest to the street there, and then I can get a 360-degree look of where he may be at. This vehicle was actually traveling. But it's very handy so the dispatchers don't have to get on the phone, ask the drivers where they are. They'll have that information right from the application. If I pull it out and look at the fleet a little bit more detail, we have our vehicle toggle radio button here. If I click on this, this will change to 3 different types of icons. We've got red indicating stop parked vehicles, the green icons indicating moving, and then you might see some yellow flashings here and here. Those are idling vehicles. So again, the dispatcher can easily determine who's moving, who's idling, and who's stopped at their given locations. To get back to the status, I just click on the toggle button again. There is a complete vehicle list with a drop-down, so you can focus on one specific vehicle if you need to find them within the fleet. Stephen also mentioned geofences in his presentation. We're very big on our geofence technology. Just so you know, geofencing is basically drawing in, shapes on the map screen and then having signals or alerts sent to you when they enter or exit that specific area. And I'll show you an example. If I do the drop down here and highlight this, that's a geofence built around the city of Greensboro in North Carolina. The nice thing about our technology is we can put geofences within geofences. So there might be some companies out there that want to know if their vehicles leave a certain part of the county or maybe an entire county or a state line. We can then build geofences within that specific area as well. Could be employees' homes, bus depots, anything at all that they want to be notified when these vehicles are entering, exiting, or both. We can also build customized routes through this application. And for snowplows and other logistics type companies, we can draw a route for them, and then we can layer that data from the historical perspective to see if they stayed on that route. Very, very handy, especially for snowplows, government agencies that are on specific, specific route that they need to adhere to. I'm going to get rid of the geofence here, make that disappear. I want to take you to the alert engine now. And we have a variety of different alerts that you can set up. Again, through our customer training, everything that will be will assist your customers with everything they want to get set up within the system. We take our training very serious at Propel. The geofence alert will send either a text or an email to the specific person, letting them know when they've arrived or exited that specific area. Continuous tracking alert, very good alert for our logistics companies that are hauling, $500,000, $1 million worth of product. They need to know exactly where they are on their route from New York to Atlanta at any point. We have our temperature alerts for our refrigerated vehicles to let us know if it goes above or below a certain temperature, like 37 degrees is typically the standard. The event alert, we can set up any type of alert on any type of PTO. The example given earlier was the towing industry, but really anything you want to be alerted about. It could be a door open. Anything with power we can tie into and send a specific alert to the end user based on what their needs are. We have our speeding alert, and this can be set up two different ways. You can do it over the posted speed limit, or you can do maximum speed. Most of our customers will do both. They want to know if a vehicle goes 10 miles over posted speed and maybe have a 80 mile per hour maximum that they want to be alerted about. We do have a license expiration alert here to keep track of when these licenses need to be renewed. And then we have our maintenance alert. There's 3 criteria you can set up here. It can be on miles traveled, a scheduled date, or engine hours. Engine hours specifically for the heavy equipment, the backhoes, skid steers, so on and so forth. Those service cycles are based on engine hours. And then again, we could have it on a specific date or miles traveled. So for example, if a truck got its oil changed to 20,000 miles, we need to be alerted when it hits 23,000. We set that alert up there, and an email and a text alert will be sent to whoever's on the list to let them know it's time for that oil change. And it can be customized. It could be oil changes, tire rotations, system flushes, whatever the customer needs. Going to our report section now. I'm just going to run through these very quickly and just comment on each one of them. The comment changes under each vehicle in our edit screen. You can put specific comment changes about a vehicle, and it could be anything. It could be an event that happened, maybe a missed service call, and then you can run that report to document whatever is going on in that vehicle, however you're using that specific text box. Device removed events, very handy for any type of tampering that might be going on. We utilize a variety of different devices, plug-and-play devices and hardwired. If a device gets unhooked or unlatched, you'll be able to read that in a report and see exactly what time that event happened. Driver changes, as Stephen mentioned, we do utilize a key fob technology, and you'll be able to see when drivers are changing out in the bus scenario and a variety of different other applications as well. Geofence alert report to see when they've entered or exited the specific geofences. Your idle report to show how much idling is going on. And all our reports can be done ad hoc. You can do them yesterday, last week, any type of time frame that you need. You'll be able to generate these reports. The maintenance report to see what services are upcoming. The mileage report to see who's driving the most miles. Odometer changes. This is very handy, especially for the plug-and-play devices. We do a lot of work with car dealerships for their loaner cars, and they're able to see when these devices get changed out based on the odometers. Posted speed limit. Speed summary, basically who's hitting the maximum speeds. State-to-state mileage, which is the IFTA, Interstate Fuel Tax. The temperature report to see if there were any Temperatures above or below our set standard, which is typically 37 degrees. The tracking details report, as I mentioned, this is going to be every ping that we send out during the day. Very detailed report, a lot of information on there. The trip report is probably our most popular report for service-based companies, your electrical, plumbing, HVAC. This will basically show from point A, where they started, to point B, to point C, to D, to E. So if a company has, if a driver has 5 service calls, management will be able to look at the trip report and see, okay, he hit all 5 service calls, the length he was there, if he had any idling, and if he had any subsequent trips in between those service calls where he stopped at. Very, very valuable report, probably our most popular. We can capture vehicle events to the diagnostic codes, and then utilization reports to see which vehicles are being utilized the most. It's amazing how many large companies with fleets over 100 vehicles, once they start utilizing Propel GPS, they'll start to see that, wow, we're only using 90% of our fleet. We've got 10% that hasn't been driven in a month. Well, if you think about it, those companies are leasing those vehicles. That's money out of their pocket. Unlimited users are on the system. Again, we will assist in that through our training methodology. And then we've got user guides and the install guides online as well. Now that's the 30,000-foot view. I will turn it back over to Stephen now.
Thanks so much, Wes. I appreciate you doing that for us. So I just have a couple more slides I wanted to share with everyone, and then it looks like we might have a couple minutes for Q&A, which is always my favorite part. So you may be asking your question, well, this sounds great. How do I get started? Well, the first step in that journey is we need to know who you are, and you can do that one of 2 ways. You can either go to our partner registration page, which is the link is right there, or you can just contact me directly at sreed@propelgps.com. And typically what I recommend to new partners is identify 1, 2, 3, kind of core customers that you may have that you have a good relationship with. And I would kind of approach them something along the lines of, hey, I know you have this particular market or use case that Propel GPS has a solution around. I would like to learn more about them as a partner company. Would you like to learn more about them as an end customer? Hey, maybe we can all learn something together. And I find that works really well. It's kind of a softer sell for you guys and kind of gets your feet wet with our sales team as well, too, and the Tech Data IoT team. And that's just a good way to start. We have tons of customer email templates, partner sales guides, and battle guards, and videos and things like that, all sorts of things that you can use not only internally for your own sales teams, but also for your end customers as well to get them interested about Propel GPS solutions. If you're not already, make sure that you're signed up with Tech Data as a distribution partner. And number 3, let's all go make some money together. So with that was the content that we had prepared for you today. I think we've got a couple of minutes left. Chuck, were there any questions that kind of came in that maybe we can start to kind of field some of these over the next maybe 5 or 10 minutes?
Absolutely, Steve. First question we have up is, do you have the ability to monitor these devices on the vehicle on a 24/7 basis during its lifetime? So can we monitor this 24/7?
So the short answer there is yes, and I think Rick spoke to that very eloquently when he talked about the refresh cycle that we see a lot of customers moving to, right? They don't want to necessarily buy the car. They only want to lease it for 3 years. And with Moore's Law kicking in, a smaller, faster, cheaper, a lot of customers do want to do a technology refresh, and a lot of times after that 3-year period of time, it'll actually be cheaper for them to monitor that asset down the life of that vehicle over time. So the short answer to that question is yes, and that's one of the reasons why we like the FMV lease approach, because it gives us the annuity to refresh that hardware.
There's another aspect to this, too. I'm glad the question came because it's a great question, and it lets us highlight another aspect. We have 24/7 by 365, support, customer support. So you can dial our 1-800 number and a live person will pick up. It's not any of this phone chat or email chat, I guess, online chat, and you're sitting there frustrated because you can't get to the right answer and you can't get a responsive person. During business hours, Monday through Friday, from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Eastern, a live person in the U.S. picks up. Now, after business hours on the weekends, it may flip over to a worldwide setup, and we have found our customers are fine with that. But they love the fact during core business hours, it's a U.S. person picking up
Thank you. Chuck, do we have some more?
We do. Absolutely. Heck yeah. You guys are on fire. El Fuego today. We got lots of questions for you. Next question up. Actually, I had a couple questions about installation. So how does the installation process work? Who actually installs it? Once they get the device, do they need to configure anything? Do they need to do anything on their end? Can you walk us through that?
Sure. So we ship all the devices out the door pre-configured. So that's part of all our internal QA process. So when the customer actually physically receives the device, it's already attached to their account in our cloud platform. So once it's turned on, they just see it come up on their portal. As far as installation go, we see a couple different models there. The most common is a train the trainer. So a lot of customers, actually a majority of them, will have their own maintenance crews, and they'll typically wind up doing the installation work themselves. So we'll send out one of our trainers to work with their trainers. They'll show them how to install the first, second, third one, and typically by the fourth one they say, we got this, go home. There isn't a lot of because we do a lot of the pre-configuration before we ship it out to the customer, there isn't a lot that gets done there. There are some additional options for installation as well. Secondly, that's a great additional value add that you as a partner reseller can bring, and additional professional services that you can bring to the table. And then when all else fails is we do have some professional services companies that we work with nationally that we can call in for potentially some larger jobs.
And there's an install guide online.
Yeah, and we have all we have all the documentation online, but I would say majority of the customers, 90+%, choose to do it themselves.
Excellent. Now, do you need a power source for this, Rick?
So we have several different options, and sometimes you want standalone power like a trailer where there may not be a ready power source when it's untethered, disconnected from the truck or tractor. We also have a hybrid where it's 6 months on its own with its own power source, and then it's a rechargeable battery. So you come back and tether to the truck if it's a trailer, and it can charge and then go back for another 6 months on standalone power basis. And then we, of course, have other solutions and equipment that rely strictly on power, and they can't function on their own. It depends on what the application is. A number of people are familiar with the OBD. It's the onboard diagnostic plug-in under the steering wheel. You've seen a lot of it with Progressive Insurance and Flow, tossing the device on TV. It's that handy, and literally your children or your wives could plug it in that may not be technical or mechanical friendly. But in other cases, customers may want to wire the device under the hood, and they don't want any chance of any employees unplugging the device, so they want it wired and it's stealth. It just depends on the application and what they're trying to get to. If you do go with the OBD plug-in, we've devised a tamper alert or a disconnect alert, so if it's ever disconnected, you have employees that take a van home for the weekend, and suddenly they call the family and say, road trip, everybody's going to the beach, pile in the van, and they disconnect the device because they know that Big Brother's kind of watching. But you can tell when the device has been disconnected and reconnected. So we actually have some, options around the choice that people make.
What's the next one, Chuck? Awesome. We're batting 1,000 so far. I like this.
You guys, you are. We have a time, I think, for one more question. We talked a lot about the different things that you can monitor. Stephen, what about supporting other environmental sensors like humidity? Do you have the ability to do that?
Yeah, that's another great thing about, again, it's our own development team. It's our own software. If a customer comes to us and says, hey, I've got this specific application, but I want to monitor humidity, I want to monitor pressure, I want to monitor something else. The good news is we have all the hardware relationships in place with various sensor manufacturers, so we can reach out to them and say, hey, we have this specific application, and then we can write the gateways and the APIs ourselves so we can integrate that specific sensor technology onto our platform. So we've yet to have a case where our customers come to us want to monitor something and us not be able to have a solution for them.
That's a great point. The only caveat caution, because we have all your resellers here, if it's a science project for pure science to prove we can do it, and the ultimate outcome is 10 units, and it's not indicative of a broader market need, you know, we might step back and scratch our heads a little bit with the reseller and customer. But usually we found someone's bringing something that solves a problem for them, and there's a broader opportunity in the whole market, so we do it. And recently we've had an opportunity with one of our state relationships, because we're commercial facing and in the public side too, in public sector. So they came and said, we have an inmate tracking opportunity. The scale was large enough. The population, unfortunately, was large enough. And we basically now are bringing in an inmate tracking capability to our platform where you can identify inmates on a route when they're cleaning the trash off the road, or if they get away from the group, you know, they wanted to have a way to track them.
Well, gentlemen, I do want to be honest with our time, and it looks like that is the last question we're going to be able to field. But if you, folks, if you did submit questions and we didn't have a chance to answer them, don't worry. We did capture them, and we will shoot you out an email with not only the answers to these questions, but also some others in the form of a Q&A document. I do want to thank all of you for joining us. Please keep track of your inboxes for future presentations. And if there's one closing thought that I can share with all of you, Propel GPS has got an excellent solution and provides a perfect opportunity for you to break into the world of IoT. We heard them talk about tow trucks today. We heard them talk about snow plows. We heard them talk about construction equipment. Fleet management, logistics, and asset tracking is not just about interstate trucking. Those opportunities are great, and trust us, we'd love to have them. But it's also for cities, counties, municipalities, HVAC contractors, plumbers, electricians, construction companies. Somewhere out there in the list of end users that you're currently working with, I guarantee you have easy opportunities to capitalize on this solution. So with that, thank you guys for attending. I hope you all have a great day and enjoy the rest of your week.
Thank you, Chuck. Well said.
Thanks, everyone. Appreciate your time today.